Renata Cruz worked the register at a hardware store in Fresno, California, starting in 1994. $9.40 an hour, 38 hours a week, no degree, no plan beyond paying rent on a $410 a month apartment she shared with her sister. Howard Pelletier owned 3 of these stores. Drove a Lincoln. Took his family to Cabo every February. By every visible measure, Howard had won. Renata had not. That's what made what happened next so quiet and so brutal. The first rule is this: what you earn determines your lifestyle. What you keep determines your future. These are not the same number, and most people never separate them. Howard's $185,000 funded a 4,200 square foot house, 2 car payments, and a country club membership he used 4 times a year because it signaled something to people he didn't actually like. By 45, Howard had $61,000 saved. He'd earned over $4 million in his career by then. $4 million, and almost none of it stayed. Renata, at 26, opened a retirement account no one told her to open. She put in $80 a month. It felt insignificant. Her sister asked why she bothered. Renata didn't have a good answer at the time. She just kept doing it. She raised it to $150 a month at 29, after a small raise. At 34, $220. She never made more than $14 an hour in that store. She worked there 19 years, through 2 recessions, through her daughter's childhood, through a divorce that could have wiped the account out and somehow didn't, because she'd built it in a way that didn't touch easily. By 35, her account held $19,000. By 45, it held $71,000. And here's the part that should stop you: most of that growth came from the market itself, not from her paycheck. The money was working a second job she never had to show up for. By 55, after switching to a logistics job paying $17 an hour and increasing her contribution to $310 a month, she crossed $210,000. She never saw a number that felt like wealth. She just saw a number that kept climbing, year after year, with the kind of stubbornness that doesn't ask permission. At 52, Renata sat at her kitchen table on a Tuesday night and ran every number she had. Real numbers. Not estimates. What she'd put in across 20 years, roughly $74,000 total. What the account actually held that night, $187,000. The difference, $113,000, she hadn't earned with her hands at all. It had simply grown while she worked, slept, raised her daughter, paid for groceries, lived an entire unremarkable life. She stared at that gap for a long time, the laptop light the only thing on in the kitchen. It was the first night she understood, fully, what compounding actually meant. Not as a concept she'd half heard once. As her own life, laid out in front of her in black and white. Howard never ran that spreadsheet. He didn't need to. His salary made the question feel unnecessary, and that, it turns out, was the most expensive mistake of his life. Renata's answer was small. $80, then $150, then $310 a month. Howard's answer, for most of his life, was close to zero, not because he couldn't save, but because his life was built to absorb every dollar that came in. A bigger house absorbed the raise. A new car absorbed the bonus. The salary kept rising and the gap stayed at zero, year after year, invisibly, while he told himself next year would be different. This is the part nobody markets, because there's no product to sell around it. It's not a trick. It's a discipline so plain it sounds boring, and boring doesn't get clicks, so people keep chasing the version of wealth that looks good in a parking lot instead of the version that actually exists in an account no one sees and nobody applauds. Renata crossed $100,000 at 47. She found out on a Thursday, checking her account on a flip phone in the break room between customers. She didn't tell anyone. There was no one at that job who would have understood why a hardware store cashier's retirement account mattered more than the size of her paycheck. It was lonely in a way she didn't expect. She was thinking in decades. Everyone around her was thinking in Fridays, in next paycheck, in whether the car would make it through another winter. Howard sold his stores at 58 for $1.4 million, which sounds like the ending of a different story, the one where the boss wins, finally, on paper. After paying off business debt, a second mortgage, and back taxes from 2 lean years, he kept $290,000. He was 58 with no income and a lifestyle that cost $11,000 a month to maintain. The math didn't survive contact with reality. He went back to work as a consultant at 60. Not from ambition. From necessity. The income had always been the illusion of security. It was never the thing itself, and somewhere underneath the Lincoln and the Cabo photos, he probably knew that the whole time. Renata's coworkers thought she lived paycheck to paycheck. She drove a 2009 Corolla, bought lunch in the same blue container for a decade, never upgraded her phone until it physically stopped working. None of them knew what the Corolla was hiding. She let them believe what they believed. The story she was actually living had no use for their approval, and there's something almost defiant in that, choosing to look poor while quietly becoming the opposite.